It's Peter Schwartz back with you here on The Fan. We'll get back to your phone calls, but right now we're going to talk a little Knicks and Nets and NBA basketball with Mikey Domagala from NBA Buzz and Inside Buzz, and he joins us here on The Fan. Mikey, Peter Schwartz, how are you?
Peter, I appreciate you having me on. I've always been a big fan of The Fan, and here I am, my first appearance. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks a lot for joining us, and it's a pleasure to have you on, and Mikey does a great job with his NBA content. I want to start with the Knicks, and for so many years, Knicks fans have been dying for a good team, dying for a competitive club, and they finally have it. And they had a taste of it, last year, getting to the playoffs and having home court, obviously losing to Atlanta in the first round of the playoffs. But now they're off to a 5-1 start, including Saturday's 123-117 win in New Orleans. Your thoughts on the Knicks so far in the early going as they're off to this 5-1 start?
Oh, my thoughts are just, I'm so happy what this team's doing. I love the culture. It all starts at the top with Tom Thibodeau. All these guys have really bought into the culture and this hard-nosed mentality of playing basketball and really hustling hard and grinding harder than the opposition, where even if the Knicks don't have the talent, well, to me, they do this year. Compared to the teams they play, their hard work and dedication will put them ahead in the win column. And this season, Peter, I'm so impressed already, and I see an even better finish than last season, maybe even a top 3 seed. Who knows? I mean, they're all locked in, and this is a really deep team, maybe the deepest in 10 years.
And they did a good job adding some pieces to the mix during the offseason, but when you look at the game on Saturday night, R.J. Barrett breaks out 35 points. Mitchell Robinson continues to be a presence for the Knicks. And these are young players that they drafted and brought in. And, you can bring in all the free agents and make all the trades you want. But when you have your homegrown players that are finally, contributing, it's a huge part of what the Knicks have been about these last couple of years.
Yeah, and that's something that, the Knicks really haven't done in those dead years, so to speak. Frank Ntilikina was a bust. A couple other guys were bust. We all know the Kristaps Porzingis situation. Not calling him a bust, but that
he just didn't want to be here.
Exactly, and now there's guys who want to be here. Listen to Madison Square Garden in the preseason. Sounds like a playoff game. So again, it goes back to the culture, and it's jumping that Garden, man. It's amazing.
When you look at this roster, I mean, 5-1, not quite sure, what that's going to mean when you end the season and see where the Knicks finish. But when you look at this roster, and you said it's a deeper team than last year, is it a team that can make a deep playoff run as constituted, or at some point during the season this roster is going to evolve a little bit?
I don't see them making many changes. I think Tibbs really likes this lineup. But for the other part of if they can make a deep run, I think a lot of it depends on Julius Randle trusting his teammates all season long. And like last night, tonight, in the RJ 35 game, him not minding putting up just 13 to 15 points rather than a 27 to 30 piece. So Kemba scoring 20, RJ scoring 15, Randle scoring 15 to 20, and then the rest of the bench guys really filling in, Obi Toppin off the bench and D Rose. I think that's the way they'll be successful, playing team basketball, team defense, leave your ego at the door. That style of play, I could see them going second, third round at most. Calling them a championship team right now, Peter, obviously, with this roster, it's a stretch, but I see them definitely improving in every aspect. Compared to last year.
Sorry, they're bringing in Kemba Walker during the offseason. Here's a New York guy that has been around this league for a few years. He comes in, and you talked before about players who want to be here, and here's a guy who really wanted to be here, and he has really been. I know there's been a couple of nights where he's been a little inconsistent, but for the most part, he has really brought to the team what the Knicks felt they were getting in him. And, he's been a good presence for them as well so far in the early season.
For sure. And I hate, I'm all over social media all day. I see people in my NBA Buzz comments who in this past offseason were saying, Kemba's not the same, whatever, da-da-da. the thing about Kemba is he was battling an injury, and he was just playing inconsistent last year because of the injury. Now he's fully healthy on an $8 million a year contract, which is unheard of for a guy who was dominant in Charlotte. And here he is rejuvenating his game. And, the fire is under his butt right now to really perform in front of his hometown. And he's doing so far.
We're talking to Mikey Domagala from NBA Buzz, Inside Buzz. You can follow him at official NBA Buzz and at inside_Buzz. He joins me, Peter Schwartz, here on The Fan as we talk about the Knicks and the Nets. So we'll stick with the Knicks for a couple more minutes. You touched on the fans being going nuts in preseason games and just the excitement of the Garden being filled again. And it just goes to show, for me, and I've always felt this about any professional sports franchise. You can never guarantee a championship, but you can guarantee that you're going to try to win, and you're going to try to guarantee that fans are going to have a good time when they go to the games. And for the longest time, James Dolan has just destroyed this franchise, and he's one general manager in and out the door, another coach in and out the door all the time, revolving doors of management and him meddling and everything. But he's finally gotten it right here, it seems, with the hierarchy that's in place and bringing in Tom Thibodeau as head coach. And there's finally that air of excitement around the team, and there's that air of hope that the days of the Knicks go making deep playoff runs like in '94 and '99 and those days are going to come back now, and they've finally gotten it right.
100%. And, it's almost like those days were led by the Patrick Ewings, and then Carmelo Anthony obviously had his run with the Knicks. Now it's Julius Randle's time. So last season, people were talking a lot of smack about him in that playoff series against Atlanta. This is the season, next season, to bounce back and really change that narrative that he could lead a team deep into the playoffs. And, yeah, man, it's going to be exciting because the Knicks, I would say, I don't want to jinx anything. For the first time almost in like 10 years, you could almost guarantee that they're going to be at least a playoff team.
There's no question about it, and we're going to switch gears to the team that a lot of people thought would be the leading contender to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals this season and be the top team in New York, and that's the Nets, and they're off to a 3-3 start. And they've obviously got some issues going on there in Brooklyn. Obviously, Kyrie Irving not getting vaccinated and not being a part of the team, and they've kind of had a slow start to the season. What's your thumbnail sketch on the Nets 6 games in?
See, the New York Knicks, no ego. The Brooklyn Nets, full of ego. That's the issue. And I think they need Kyrie Irving desperately. And if they don't, they're going to be, like a 6 to 8 seed, somewhere in there, maybe even fall the play-in. Because as good as KD and Harden are, they're some of the greatest scorers ever. The team around them just doesn't fit. Their defense just really isn't there. Their interior presence just isn't there. They're always getting beaten up inside. And I don't know if they're going to have to make some kind of trade deadline move or move Kyrie before that. I'm not even sure. All I know is it's a mess out in Brooklyn. And a couple years back, people were saying, "Oh, Kyrie and KD are coming to the Knicks," and who's doing better right now? The Knicks or the Nets? So, it's not the worst thing.
What do you think Kyrie is eventually going to, get the shot and come in? I mean, we really don't know what's going on in his head, why he hasn't gotten vaccinated. And this is not to be a political statement, but obviously if Kyrie Irving joins the Nets and he's able to play, that makes their chances of winning a championship a whole lot better. And I'm just wondering, from what you've heard, like, what's it going to take for him to reconsider? Is there a chance he reconsiders, or do the Nets wind up having to just make the decision of trading him?
I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine last night, and he thinks he's going to get vaccinated and come back, and I really don't think so. Mm-hmm. Kyrie kind of likes to be a little bit of a bad boy out there. I understand his point, just as I understand the other side. But all in all, I just feel like Kyrie wants to make this big statement that's kind of setting him up for a almost political activism career after basketball. I think he's thinking that far ahead. And I really think he's going to hold out until the city of New York does something. And, man, I don't know if he's going to be around this season later on. who knows if he'll end up in Philly for Ben Simmons? Who knows in this league, man? I don't know what's going to happen.
You know, it's interesting that you brought up Ben Simmons. I was gonna get to him when I was gonna ask you around the rest of the NBA. So it was a good segue right there to bring him up, and it would seem like a logical kind of transaction. I don't know if the Nets and the Sixers would get together and make a trade of that sort. But yeah, take me to Philadelphia here and what's going on with Ben Simmons, and obviously it's been a big story since the end of last season's playoffs. Where do you think that soap opera winds up ending?
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed. I think it's going to 110% come to an end. I think the only reason why Ben Simmons is back is because his bank account would have taken a big hit if he continued to stay out. And the mental health thing, maybe he's having some mental health issues. He really doesn't want to play there, obviously. But I think that's just his quote-unquote excuse, half excuse to just not step foot in another game for the Philadelphia 76ers. Who they're going to move him to, I'm not sure. I say this all the time in the NBA Buzz comments. When Indiana offered them Brogdon and I believe 2 firsts, that may be the best trade that they could have completed about 6 months ago.
Couple minutes left with Mikey Domagala here on The Fan. He's from NBA Buzz and Inside Buzz, and he's joining us here on WFAN. We'll get back to your phone calls in just a moment. Let's go out west, Mikey, and take a look at the NBA so far. Out west, and the Jazz are off to a 4-1 start. The Warriors are off to a 5-1 start. Any surprises for you out in the Western Conference?
No, believe it or not. Maybe Phoenix. I thought they'd come out a little better. They just had a nice win over Minnesota tonight, I believe. But other than that, I saw the Lakers getting off to a rocky start. Warriors coming out hot. I figured that, and man, a lot of people are sleeping on those Warriors, and I'm very excited for Klay to come back and really see that team flourish because they're still technically a dynasty. We haven't seen Klay play for them since 2019. So even if he's 75% of what he was, which would be averaging like 17, 18 points per game, added on to this 5-1 club, I mean, they're going to be even more dangerous.
And last thing, how about the Lakers? They're off to a 3-3 start. Not the start they wanted to. They had some big expectations coming into the season. Can the Lakers get things together?
I think so if Russell Westbrook is moved to the bench. Now, the only reason for that is Westbrook and LeBron don't mix. Rondo, LeBron, and AD do mix. Rondo hits AD on lobs like it's his job. And Westbrook off the bench, say, playing against the rotation pieces on the other side for the first 3 quarters, and then really playing with the starters in the 4th quarter, I think is the best way to use him because Westbrook playing against bench players would be, he'd kill them. And that's what you got to do. It's not really about who's on the floor to start the game. Get Russ with all them on the floor together at the end. And I think they should try that and see how that goes because if you watch their offense, LeBron and Russ together, it's like they're just stepping on each other's toes. Who wants to play make? Who wants to try to shoot? They're not great shooters, and it's just a mess, in my opinion.
You can follow Mikey Domagala from NBA Buzz and Inside Buzz on Twitter at official NBA Buzz and at inside_Buzz. And we thank Mikey for joining us here on The Fan. Mikey, thank you so much for being on the program, and we'll continue to follow your content, and we'll talk to you again somewhere down the road.
I appreciate it, Peter.
Mikey,
well.
Thank you, Mikey. Mikey Domagala from NBA Buzz and Inside Buzz. I'm Peter Schwartz here on The Fan, back with more of your phone calls coming up right after this.